Welcome back to the Right Questions podcast. I'm your host, co-host for this, another fantastic conversation with somebody who's going to offer some great insight into a question that is supposed to benefit your life. So we're going to do our best to make sure that happens today. But as I always ask, and she's not allowed to say fantastic or great, how are you doing today, Bridget?
I am humbled to be part of this conversation. We are here with someone who is my coach at the moment, and the fact and who has accomplished phenomenal things in her life, which we'll tell you about. And so for her to say yes and be willing to be here with us, I'm going to say I'm humbled today more than anything else. How does that?
That's it. I share that feeling with you. I share that sentiment right here. Episode 28. We're making our way through some important topics. And today, I'm excited because, and I use the word excited there. I'm excited because I know I'm going to learn something quite valuable from our guests this afternoon. I have lots of crap that I'm always trying to get done. And when I say crap, I've got like good and bad crap, and there's all and everything in between, as we all do. I have a blended family. We've got 5 children. I have my work. I teach at the university, right? Like, we do this podcast. We travel is back in action. And, with 5 kids, there's so many things. There's like soccer started and lacrosse is coming up, and multiple kids in gymnastics, and baseball just started, and then they want you to volunteer at the stand also. Here's my point. There's so many things, and those are my things, and I could keep going on, but we all have all these things, all this crap, dare I say some shit that we have to deal with. So here's the question today as I segue into it. Why can't I get my shit done? To put it another way, why can't I get my stuff, these things, all of this ish that I have to get done? What's going on? So that's what we're going to try to cover today. I'm going to throw it to Bridget to introduce our wonderful guest.
Yes.
So go ahead, Bridget, take it away.
All right. Well, first, let's just say welcome. I'm going to introduce you, but we like to take a moment to say welcome. Hello, Sophie. We're so honored to have you here, and we thank you so much. Welcome, welcome.
I'm so honored to be here. Oh my God, you guys are so fun. I'm just watching you do your thing.
We're gonna have an amazing conversation. I just know because I've been having these incredible, seriously life-changing conversations with you, Sophie. And so to bring this to our audience and share it widely is, I'm sorry, Todd, I'm going to say it as I always say. I'm beyond excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. Yeah. And I'm going to model doing something for our listeners, anybody who's listening, that we have to be able to do, which is I was supposed to ask Sophie how to pronounce her last name before the episode, and I forgot. So I'm going to confess and admit right now, because she's, as you probably can already tell, she's French. She has this delicious French accent. She has a French last name. And I was like, oh my gosh, as well as we know each other, I forgot how to pronounce her last name. But you know what? No shame, no embarrassment. I'm just going to ask you right now to tell us your name, Sophie.
Great. Sophie Chiche. And you know what?
Yeesh.
I've never liked pronouncing my name. It's hard to pronounce. It's like S's and F's and shishes, and it's like a lot of work. And so think of it as like SHEEEEESH. Sheesh.
Sheesh. Like that's what we say when something's hard, like sheesh, this is hard.
Exactly.
Okay. Exactly. Which is what you help us with. So it's that's perfect. Right. Okay. All right. Well then, Sophie Chiche, we thank you so much for being here. Let me take just a moment to introduce you to our audience. And I could go, Todd knows I'm famous for really long gushing intros. So I'm going to try to curtail that and contain myself. So if I forget anything or leave anything out, please let us know after. Okay. So Sophie is the founder and CEO of becurrent, which is an amazing, fun project management design system, project management system that's really designed for creative minds, but it's for everybody and anybody. And I cannot say enough about the system. Sophie is coaching me currently, and it has been life-changing for me to do the becurrent work with her. We're not getting any kind of, advertising pay for this episode, but I want to tell you, you've got to do it. You've got to go to becurrent and take the quiz and sign up for some more information. And Todd and I have taken the quiz. It's amazing. And I'm coaching with her now. I'm learning this whole new system of organizing my life, prioritizing my life, figuring out what really matters. What do I want to spend my time doing? And then how do I keep it organized in a way that's going to allow me to set big goals and do the things I really want to do with this one life that I get to have, right? Sophie is an entrepreneur. She's an author. She's a TEDx speaker. She's a journalist. She's a psychologist. She has several master's degrees, an MBA, an MA in psychology. I won't go on and on. She's been the CEO and crafted many, many other successful companies. She hangs out with the likes of Ariana Huffington and Nelson Mandela. Her work has been featured on Ellen, Good Morning America, the Today Show, Billboard, New York Times, the LA Times, Huffington Post, TEDx. I can see she's already like, enough, Bridget. Don't get mad at me, Sophie. It's hard not to. She's written for renowned international publications. She's a coach for super high powered people, entrepreneurs, executives. I will stop there. She's also a wonderful, loving mom and friend, and she's my friend, and she just is so generous with her wisdom and her kindness, and she's accomplished incredible things. She helps people to figure out what their real goals are in life and how to make them happen. And she uses the most profound examples, such as deciding, I think 15 years ago, that she was going to lose 200 pounds, and she did it, and she's kept it off. And she talks about that, and she shares that so openly from her heart, which we know is a painful and deeply, introspective journey that takes a lot of self-work. So, all right, I'll stop. Sophie, what did I leave out? Tell us more about you.
Oh, nothing. You have oh my God. Maybe my shoe size, but other than that, you've got the whole thing.
And a great sense of humor. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you for having me.
That is the question that we know, or at least we speculate, right? But we've talked before, and we know people come to you and they're like, Sophie, why can't I get my shit done? Like, what is going on? Like, I'm struggling here. And so some version of that question. So, I mean, can we just start with what you see in your work, in the coaching work, in the business that you've built? Like, what do you see as an answer to that question, just to get us started?
I love that question. I actually, to go to the why don't we, it takes it deep right away, because the reason we don't is often rooted in very old patterns and stories and things we were told. I was told I was lazy as shit when I was a kid. And obviously from what you read of my life, it's like, I don't know anyone. I am not a lazy person, but I was told I was lazy a lot. And I grew up with this thing, like battling, like I would accomplish something and I would say like, what, like that doesn't fit. I'm lazy. I'm supposed to be lazy. Right. And so already to kind of go to the root of what do we believe of ourselves? I believe to be like a treasure chest, like what do you believe about yourself? And then there is one of my other favorite one is the fact that we don't know how to say no. I think things end up on our calendar, on our project management tools, whatever you use, Trello, Asana, Monday.com, whatever those things that we all use to try to manage our lives. I think things get onto them that really shouldn't. And it starts from, oh, you want me to build furniture for my IKEA this weekend? All right, I'll carve some time. And then comes the moment to go do that. And you want to shoot yourself in the head, but you didn't know how to say no, or you didn't you want to be liked. And so that also gets rooted pretty far down, and not wanting to disappoint people. And so all of a sudden you're doing things that are not what you are meant to be doing. And I would say that's one of the big ones. It's like one of what we call our shit, getting our shit done often is not ours. So one of the first thing I do when I work with people, let's look at what's there. Let's take it out of your head and your systems. If you're using one or half of one or 7 of them, which is might as well not use one at all. Exactly, as he shows me a list and another list, and I know what you're going to show me, Todd. So basically not knowing how to say no is a critical, crucial, pivoting thing in the work that I do, is to already build the kind of confidence that if someone asks you to do something in 2 weeks, but right now you know that in 2 weeks you really won't want to do it, say no now.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That's one of
my goodness. Yes.
I'm thinking about, we talk about mental habits. So much of what this show is about, right? Our habits of mind and There's a saying I like from the Dalai Lama that I've said multiple times, and he was pointing out that we were taught how to physical hygiene, that we're taught how to cleanse our bodies and wash our armpits and behind our ears, right, and brush our teeth, but nobody teaches us how to really cleanse our mind. That our culture is not centered around this mental hygiene, and it strikes me in kind of keeping with that unless we are fortunate enough to have somebody share, right, or teach us, guide us in the development of what time management, right, different executive function skills, right, if we're not fortunate enough to have that or to develop it by chance, that we might be sitting there kind of, as the Dalai Lama said, deficient in these habits of both mind and like actual physical habits of organization. What do you think about that?
It's funny because some of the way I described how one feels after working the kind of work I do with them is the fact that we're flossing their brain. We are literally going to all these parts of our heads inside that are holding, that are being used as, frankly, the least interesting way to use your brain. When you think of it, it's like, yes, it has memory and it can hold stuff, but it's like using a jet as like a little bicycle to go get your bread. Nothing wrong with the bicycle, but let's do something with that jet, right? And so the fact that we do not have systems where we can download all that and we keep it in our heads, that is one of my big, like by flossing, I mean, get stuff out of your head and find a system that you trust, a container where you can put that stuff so that when comes the time to sit down and do work, you're not like a pinball machine up there. It's like, oh, this, oh, no, that. Okay, wait, what's it? What? And it's not stopping. It's like at first when I was coaching people years ago, I kind of thought it was a phase. It was just like, we need to get used to this thing that's like this new behaviors that we all have to have. It ain't going anywhere. We have so much coming at us. And you're right, Todd. Like if we don't develop habits of health, and it is interesting how we accept the idea of needing to work out or even storing stuff. Like I was thinking, I went to my storage facility the other day and I was like, that's interesting because I accept the idea that stuff that I don't need in my house, I rent a place and I put it there. And then maybe when it's time to ski or it's cold, I will go get these sweaters that I do not need when it's 100 degrees.
Yeah.
And somehow I accept that notion, but not most people, not in their heads. And so they store. And so, at some point, I think we end up, I think aging has a lot to do with there's just too much up there.
Yes.
And it doesn't feel like there is fluidity and space.
Yeah. I want to speak to this in a specific example because as Sophie's speaking, Todd, you have to imagine like I'm doing coaching with her. So she's doing this with my brain. She is getting deep inside my brain. And I don't even know what to describe Sophie's coaching because it sounds like it's like time management or organizational systems, but remember, she's a psychologist, right?
Yeah.
So we go deep quick based on what's on my list. Like, I mean, first you start, she has you put everything you do into Trello, which I thought it was all about that at first. And I was like, Trello's amazing. I want to be a spokesperson for Trello. Like I have all these lists now of things I need to do this week, things I need to do today, things I need to do this month. And then I move them to different, boards based on what's getting done. And it's that alone, honestly, has saved me hours and hours and hours. But then what happens? Because Sophie is this incredibly astute psychologist. Is like this, Todd, you have to forgive me because I'm going to use us as an example. I had this thing on my to-do this week for like a few weeks. And it was give Todd tips about X. We talked about this today. I don't want to specify because it's one of our clients. So we don't, give Todd information. And I didn't know exactly what I needed to do. It was like all this pressure because it's this big project you're working on. I want to support you. And it kept moving from the list from this week to next week to today. And Sophie was like, okay, I'm sensing, there's something going on here with this item. You're not getting it done. What is it? And then it became like a therapy session. It was like, well, I don't really understand and I want to help him. And I told him I was going to do it last week and I didn't do it. And it was the craziest experience where I realized, and then I sat down today and what happened, Sophie, you don't know to close the loop, is I came back to Todd and I was like, I realized like, I'm not sure how I can help you with this. It feels like this big to-do on my list. And Todd knows how busy I am and he is too. And he was like, oh, just do this. He said, just put these things in a folder for me. Just share this with me. And I was like, Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
It's beautiful that you're giving this example, because I would argue that one of the reasons things don't get done is because we do not know what the very next step is, or it's too big. It's too big. And we look at it and we're like, oh my God, like taxes, like, well, but saying, I just need to find the receipt from lunch last week with Todd. Then that's like, oh, I know what that receipt is. So somehow creating momentum, by doing one little thing and then another little thing and then another little one. And all of a sudden it's like you climbing the whole mountain. And it really is, when I'm not doing something, I track it down. I don't know what to do next. So asking question was brilliant. Like going back to him and saying, what is it exactly that you need? Because clearly you wanted to support him. It wasn't about, so one, I don't know what to do next. The second one is, I don't want to do it. I just don't. It's like, it's either I have to do it and I don't want to do it. So break it down. Ask a friend to come do it with you, whatever it is, put music on, whatever it is. But there's clearly a reason why you're resisting doing it. It could also be the way that it ended up on your plate you didn't like someone asked you to do something and they weren't very nice about it, or it's part of your job, and so you kind of like, so to have the courage to kind of, it really is courage for me to kind of look at the items, not so much at this big noise, like, oh, all the stuff I have to do, but really, what is this item? Like this one little thing that you keep like, procrastinating about. Procrastination is one of my favorite topics, by the way, because people are treating procrastination as like, the devil or something. It's kind of, it's fascinating, because procrastination often is a way for our body, for our system to inform us that something is not where it needs to be. So whether it's too early and I really cannot make a decision, I don't have enough information, or the team is not put together yet, and so we can't really move forward, or I'm really exhausted and I need to rest before I can do this, or whatever it is. It's like there is we're grown-ass adults. Like we're not little toddlers that are kind of like not wanting to do what our teacher's saying, right? And so to kind of like take it back, like I keep saying, I want to write a book, not me, but someone I was working with. I want to write a book. I want to write a book. I'm writing a book. 15 years he's writing the book. At some point I was like, dude, you're not writing a book. That's not writing a book. And who told you to write this book? I want to write the book. Okay, well, great. Then let's break it down. Can you do 15 minutes brainstorming the title of your book? Can you do that? I can do that. Great. After he was done with that, can you do 15 minutes of, 3 titles for the chapters, maybe? Great. Then he did that. And then 6 months later, the thing is done. Just because we did it in such a way that was just like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Nobody writes a book. I've written books. I don't write books. I sit down for 15 minutes, my butt's in a chair, and I'm typing something. That's what I'm doing. And tomorrow I do it again and again and again and again. Eventually it builds up to something, but the act that we are doing is often too big. It's just too big. And so I don't climb Everest. If I ever wanted to go do that, I would buy a pair of shoes. I would go on a little hike with a friend, or, meet someone who's actually gone to Everest. Those things would move me towards. But people somehow project themselves into this too big thing. It scares the piece out of them, really, because it's too big, and then they don't do it, and it stays there as this open loops. Open loops are my candy when I work with people. Let's go.
Now, what if it's what if I have a conflict of priorities, right? Like if I'm struggling, like I know I can organize, I see all the things, I know I'm not doing this thing because while it's important, there's these other things that keep getting in the way of me doing this important thing because these are more important. Have you ever heard that one before?
A couple times. Well, that one is interesting because it would be like asking me, why don't I have 4 legs? I don't know. You have 2. So let's deal with that. Like what happens when we do the work that I do with people is they see that they have too many priorities. Like what you're asking me is, should I lower the quality of what I'm doing? Should I have said no? Should I hire someone that could do it with me, for me? What have you? It's like there is a limit. It's like somehow there's this belief that we just take it all on And we will do it all, especially with 5 children. Wow, you did not mean like dogs and cats. You mean actual children.
I have 3
He's got
cats.
those too.
I have 3, no, not cats. I have 3 dogs. So I wouldn't say, oh my gosh, like if you know me at all, I don't have cats. But yeah, not that anything about cats. Yeah, I'm just allergic. I get bad allergies. It's funny. I do have a 3-legged dog too. I have a 3-legged dog to that point.
Wow, well, that's funny. So it would be like saying to this dog, like, why don't you do things that you would need your 4 legs for? It's like, I don't have an answer for you. It's like if you have too many priorities, it's in the sentence. The answer is in the question. There are too many. Yeah. And it's like, if you would be like saying, how come I don't have 9 days a week? I don't know. We only have 7. Like there's, and it's like, I think the common sense to be able to look at what is and decide, maybe because having the priorities that you committed to, so maybe saying no would have been a good idea, breaking it down, coming up with a team, deciding to do it in 6 months, having some deliberate relationship with it, I think is where the secret is. I think someone says something and boom, I take it on and now I'm doing it and I barely know why. That's not a very conscious behavior. So when someone comes at me with like, do you want to do something with me? I look at what is, and if it is too much, whatever that would be, but if I don't see that I can fit it in a way that's pleasing, then I say no. Yeah. I say no. So if your priorities are, picking up the kids from school, I say pick them all up. Like I'm not saying drop one of them and don't pick them up, of course. But often I would argue that because I look at people's, I look at their stuff, right? It's like part of the work I do is I really get in there with them, and it's kind of their underwear drawer a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of deep in the, as Bridget.
Yeah, it's very personal. It gets super personal.
I know so much about people in like an hour and a half, more than I do in like knowing someone for 10 years. It's really beautiful. Yeah. Mind you, the second I'm done with your session, just so you know, I forget all about it.
Right. Thankfully, I hope so. I'm relieved. Yeah. But in the moment in this session, you're like picking up on every little nuance of like, and you say, oh, your energy changed when you talked about responding to so-and-so. Why do you not? And it's like, well, because I don't want to. And, and I noticed that you, sighed. You were like, oh, you had a deep, heavy sigh when you were going through this item. I noticed how excited, with me, how excited I get when we get to put things in the done column. It's just ridiculous. I get so excited.
Adorable.
And like there's confetti. You get confetti I am so obsessed with moving things to the done column because you get this electronic confetti. So I'll like finish, whereas I used to be like, oh, there's 5 minutes left to do of this thing. I'll just keep it on the list or whatever. It's like, no, if I just put in that 5 minutes, I can. So there's so much psychology, embedded in your system. And it really does. You're right. It goes really, really deep into some of our deepest, darkest kind of secrets and aspects of our personality, of our persona, and I'm sure a lot of it goes back to things, as you said, that we were taught in childhood, and how are you going to be a good girl or boy, a good child by doing this the right way. And, and that's all still in there as tapes. So you help us kind of bring all that to the surface and really, as you said, become grown-ass adults and say, no, my time is my time. We all get 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And, it reminds me also, I just read the book Essentialism with Greg McKeown, which was such a game changer for me also. And he says, people who have their lives in control, they understand that life is about trade-offs. We can't say, like Todd said, what if people say I have all these priorities, but I can't get this big priority done because I have all these other priorities? It's like, then they're not, they shouldn't be priorities. We only get so many priorities. And then we have to say no. As you said, we have to come up with other ways, or we trade-offs. That word really, really stuck with me, because we can't, people like us, who are blessed and lucky to have endless opportunities, we just can't do it all. We've got to make trade-offs.
And then the thing that it reminds me, because I have lost 200 pounds, I guess I've visited the topic of what actually do end up in my mouth when I eat food. I don't eat the entire buffet. Maybe in the past I would have wanted to. Yeah. Like priorities, it's like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want that. It's like there's a certain, what is the word, clarity. If I eat this, I'm going to feel great. If I spend time with these people, I'm going to not feel great at all. Well, okay, what do you want to do about that? And it's really looking at it as like, because you are a grown-ass adult, what do you let in? What do you let in? A priority is not something that's written on your to-do list. That does not make it a priority. Yes. If you've committed to it, if you said, yes, I'm going to do it by Friday, but then you made it a priority. But was it one? Or was it just like someone demanded something of you and you don't want to disappoint these people? And so, or you're just not used to saying no in a way that's, people come to me all the time to do stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I would love to do that. And no, I don't have time. It's a full sentence, it's just, no, it's a full sentence.
Yeah.
So I'm sticking to this one because I feel like that's one of the pivotal moments where people realize that it's like your house. Okay. We walking down the street, there's a couch, like the dogs have peed on it. It's like sitting on the street, like someone just left it out. Do you just, because it's sitting there, do you just bring it in? You don't bring it in. You're very deliberate about what you bring to your house, right? Because that you can see. Okay, if I come home and you brought in my house like a, peed on couch, I'm not going to be very happy, but I can't see what's going on in your head. And you kind of don't either, because once it's in there, it's kind of has its own like way of, living there like it was always there, which often it wasn't. And so there's just a very exercise of emptying, like, is this furniture something I really want? Because otherwise, gotta go. And similarly, do that for your to-dos. Does that resonate with your thought at all?
Yeah. I'm going to be meditating tomorrow or this evening. I'll be thinking about like pee-stained couches. I'm gonna be like, that needs to go. I need to know. I like it. I kind of like
what
the
is that a
visual.
metaphor for in your life? You're saying,
get rid
of
that. Yeah.
I want to. Oh yeah, go ahead, Sophie.
I was just going to say, it reminds me of like, the other day I was at the market and there's so much stuff, right? It's like, how do I choose what makes it into my basket, right? What I need, what I feel like I want, what I need to do this other dish I'm trying to do, right? There's a certain process that makes me pick this particular thing or this cheese or this nut, right? Okay.
Yes.
So then I get to the counter and I have, maybe 0.1% of what's in that store. Right? I don't grab one of each just for the sake of it. So then I get home and that particular element, maybe the meat goes in the fridge and the toilet paper goes in the bathroom. And we know where stuff goes. Like we don't come home and just like dump that percentage of things we brought home. And we don't do that with our thoughts. We don't do that with our ideas. Like it comes, we don't select what gets in the basket, and we don't have a place when we get home on where to put it. And the system that I've developed does that. It has this filtering. Does it belong to your basket right now? Do you really need that or not? So first of all, it makes you come home with 0.1%, not the entire store. And second, when you get home, you have a place. The container that I've developed, as you were describing it earlier, it is on Trello, which I find to be the most beautiful one and efficient one, many other project management. But the fact that every thought you have, I will challenge you, I can turn it into, where does it go on that board? I do, because by asking questions like, what is the very next step? Are you sure you're the one who needs to do that one? Do you have enough information? Is that step, like, let's say, I love that example. So Bridget, it's, Todd's birthday tomorrow, and I don't have his phone number, right? And on my list, I don't write, call Todd for his birthday. I write, call Bridget to ask for Todd's phone number. And people don't do that. They put stuff on their list that they have no business. They don't know. And they don't have business doing. And so then they sit there to do it. And it's like, like you like, when if I write on my list, text Bridget, so I get Todd's number, then it gives me, it's like it pops me up. Like it gives me the energy of like, doing the steps I need to do because it's very clear.
Yeah. This is why working with you is so like, there's so many epiphanies and, profound kind of mindset shifts, because I was doing a lot of that. I was just putting things on there where it was like, I had 10 steps to do before the thing I was putting on my to-do list. And so it would be like, why can't I get this done? Right. So you've asked me multiple times, like, well, what's the next step on? The next step would be this, so that's where the coaching is incredible. I want to, I'm thinking if I'm a listener hearing this, I'm sold. Like, I think every person on the planet like is sold on what we're saying. The challenge, and needs it desperately. I sure did. The challenge is like, where do I start? So I want to ask if we can go through a little bit of a step-by-step, like, first go to the website, take the quiz. It's free, right? Learn what your style is, because once I learned my archetype, then it's like, oh, that makes sense why these are my challenges with my what I have to do and what I want to do. And then, maybe have a discovery call with Sophie if you want, or maybe, maybe people want to find out about coaching with you. Maybe they want to try to start doing this on their own. Like, let's help walk people through a little. So can we start with talking about these archetypes? It was so fascinating.
I took the quiz.
Me too.
Right. Me too. Let's hear it. What'd you get?
Let's hear you.
I'm a creativator.
You're a creativator.
Creativator.
I can tell from what's on the walls behind you and the kind of careers I can tell you've had. What about you, Brit?
I was an envisioner.
An envisioner, I can see that as well. So yes, the archetypes, it's interesting because the way I got to them, I've had hundreds of people go through this process. And the first exercise for me was like, let's see if there are trends. Like, are there people that really do respond differently? And by golly, are there people that respond differently?
Fascinating.
So one of the specifics of an envisioner is you have multiple ideas, many going on at once. Maybe the challenge for you a little bit.
I was like, yes.
Let's pick one, or let's start with the one and let's kind of stay with that. And that's why the question, what is the very next step, is a very useful one for you, because you could literally be doing, like, you're so creative and you're so kind of initiating of beautiful ideas. And that's what's beautiful with envisioners, is that they are leading us towards an edge that we've never been to. It's just that sometimes to translate that into, all right, now what do I do so this thing actually manifests itself, is a little bit difficult because there are so many. The creativators I know very well because I'm one of them. So I'm with you. And I'm not surprised actually to have you in the role that I'm imagining you have in this conversation we're having. We have a lot of ideas and we have a good structural way of going about them. And so, of course, the world will come and sometimes it'll be too much, but it's the one of the five that has the most, the balance, let's say. So maybe we don't go like all the way up there or all the way down there, but somehow in the middle there, we generate good ideas. Often they have like heart to them. Like it's difficult for us to stay engaged when we don't have, an interest to it. It's like, I don't think, can you stay on jobs that you like, get me out of here? We can't. I mean, some people can. I absolutely cannot. No, can you? Probably. And so what's powerful is that the balance between having these ideas and actually translate it into, okay, now what do I do with this? We have a really good balance with those. And so that's, the chick.
Now I got to ask, okay, so what are the challenges for the R2 archetypes in working together and getting things done?
The two of you.
Yeah.
The two of you. You're not going to lack good ideas. You probably have a good amount of them. I would recommend that, Todd, you play a little bit of a structural role. So maybe there's a weekly meeting where, you download everything from Bridget's head and your own, and maybe together you identify, okay, there's 17 things, we can do 4. Which ones should we do?
I'm
like
laughing.
I would recommend that.
Making me feel good about our systems right now.
This is like therapy for us. This is like coworkers.
We're doing something right, Bridget. We've got something therapy. A little bit right. Yeah.
This is so powerful, Sophie, because this is so real for us. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I was going to say for you, Bridget, it's like not seeing people that are trying to structure a little bit of this joyful enthusiasm, creating things every 10 seconds that you have, and really trusting, like building the kind of relationship you have with Todd that I can feel is that you trust them. Because if you don't, you're left. It's like, it's a little crazy making to have that many ideas. You can be a little bit like, I mean, a lot of people I work with that are envisioners, I find them a little bit kind of in their own, like lost in like, what do I do next? What do I do next? They struggle. But if they team up with a little bit of a structure, which can come from creativators, it can come from planifiers, it can come from different sources, then it works really well. But not if you haven't resolved your own, like, okay, maybe I don't have everything it takes to do everything myself, then it's a good partnership. Todd is smiling like
I'm thinking.
You're validating all his frustrations with me, Sophie.
No, there's so many thoughts. The one I went back to, because you were talking about the story and also our training, like how did we arrive here is so much of why we do what we do. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why am I good at that role? Why do I enjoy that role? Sorry, the little fly flying here. Like with Bridget. My father, I would venture to guess, if I had to speculate, is something quite similar. He's a songwriter. He's a producer. He has been his entire life. I worked with him for over a decade right before, I say I have a previous life in the music industry, right? So all of that applies very well, I guess, to you, Bridget, as well. So you reap the rewards of all of that, you know, because I learned very well how to fall into that role. Yeah, it's very.
I mean, we all, there's probably a part where we come with it. Like I have stories of me being 3 years old and like sorting pencils and selling them and having this very kind of structure, but also kind of very like, okay, now what do we do with this? That was unusual for such a young person that my parents reported, you know, being difficult to raise me a little bit. I see that. So some of it probably I came with it, but some of it, I would test something and be like, ooh, that was cool. Like, okay, so now I had this great idea. And because I had a little bit of like, do this, do that, then it happened. But maybe I'm 5, 6, 7, 10 years old. So now I'm developing this like, ooh, this is cool. As opposed to maybe I'm in danger when I don't, like, there's also all the pieces of like, we create survival mechanism when we're children. And so some of these behaviors, you know, like maybe Bridget, you were raised in a family where being bubbly and having great ideas and being all was supported. It was kind of like the little girl that's all like happy and dancing and doing her thing. And that, you know, somehow we learned that's like, well, that's good. I get approval when I do that, or I don't get punished when I do that. Sadly, it's those ways. And so it's a combination of, we probably came with a suitcase of all sorts of behaviors and then we tested them and
exactly.
Okay. You named me. I have a question. I have it's an important one that I wanted to make sure I asked you. And I'm like looking at our time. I'm like, I gotta make sure you get this question in. So I work with a number of students who have a variety of, processing or a number of things they're working through. At the front of which would be ADD, ADHD.
Yep.
And so when you're saying we come with some things, and some of these are like, programs, some of these are just things like idiosyncratic stuff that we have and the way that we operate. Yep. What is the starting point, for somebody dealing with something like that?
Well, first of all, I think lots of people are diagnosed. Some should have been diagnosed and are not. Some are diagnosed and probably are just doing too much garage band at home, and then they have to go to school and it's boring out of their head. And so, I would have probably been diagnosed with something because I was very active and very original. And I came up with all these things and I was asked to like sit like a little, don't move and sit in the back and, don't, and wear shoes, which is what an insult to my creativity, right? And so if I had not done the kind of work I've done, I probably would have gotten lost in all this because we are not meant to all be doing the same thing. Like Sir Ken Robinson, which sadly passed away not long ago, but he's an educator, has changed the way we look at, you're familiar with him, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. And he talks about he was a very good friend with this guy who was a gymnast, like Olympic, Bert. I mean, he was married. He's a known guy that I don't want to tell a private story about him, but he was walking on his hands when he was little, like 2, 3 years old. There's stories of him walking on his hands. And Sir Ken tells the story that it's like, if he did that in his house, the mother would have like yanked him around and be like, stop with that shit. Right. Well, that mother, for some reason, she was like, oh, that's peculiar. And she started supporting and helping. And whoa, you can do it on the stairs too. That's really amazing that he's balanced like that. Well, meanwhile, the kid got us like, gold medals at the Olympics. So somehow to get this kid to sit in the back of the class, he would have had something diagnosed because that energy is not really meant to stay still like we asked to do in school. Think of it. School is like 100 years old. We've done nothing different than we did. And now there's an iPhone. I can talk to my phone and anything that would have taken me 5 hours at the library can spit out of my phone in like 10 seconds. And it's like, how do we not adjust learning? I think the learning is the problem, not the children. That's kind of my...
And by the way, Sophie, I'm gonna, obviously my coaching clients follow us and listen to this podcast. I'm gonna recommend it and I'm gonna focus them specifically on this part because, you saying that provides a lot of relief for a lot of people about like, there's something wrong with me. I can't get this. And they have to, and I do mean have to on some level, right? Function and win, air quotes, if you're not watching us, right? Win in these structures that, you know, they may have parents that are like, no, we're not moving schools, or don't have the ability to move schools, right? You're going to win, and you have to win, and this is where you're going to win, and we'll bring people around you, we'll do things, but you have to do it like this. So to the kid to the student who's walking on his or their hands, right, and knows that they are struggling but has to still win, what do you tell that kid?
It's super rough. I tell them that it often isn't them the problem. It's like the system hasn't adapted to a number, like I was not joking, like these kids are able to like code games and change the world in that side of their life. And then they come and they have to sit over there and absolutely bring no creativity, so to maybe, I mean, what I would have loved to hear when I was a kid, I was kicked out of 9 schools, just to make the table clear here. When I took my daughter for not the first time, but she was old enough to understand, I took her to this school and I said, oh, this one was my 2nd grade school, and this one was my 9th, and this one was my 1st. And at some point she pauses and she's like, wait, in France, do you guys change schools like for every grade? And I was like, no, not most people. Right. So what I would have loved to hear back then probably was something along the lines of like, it's going to pass. Like, you're going to grow, you're going to find your place, you're going to be okay. Just don't stop loving yourself. Like, don't take it personally. It's not about you. You know, something is happening in you that doesn't fit. It's like coming with a bathing suit. And today we're flying. It's like, we're asking you to bring something to this game that you don't have. But for this other game, you'd be fantastic, right? Like, God bless France in this case, that I wasn't, somehow my ego was strong enough that it didn't break me. Like you know, what doesn't kill you, makes you stronger type of thing. So I would just say, like, do your best, get good friends, you know, get together, get your sense that life is good from a different place, because it's hard. I mean, I don't want to BS you know, to try to be a giraffe when you're a zebra, that's hard. You know, I'm pretty sure the zebra wouldn't like having to be a giraffe. And you're asking me, how do we make that work? It's like, well, you know, I don't know, find a way to not have to be in that environment, as you were saying earlier, or learn another skill, which is, you know, be resilient and know that for some hours a day, you're going to have to put up with it. Like, we have to do some stuff. Like, I'm not, you know, out there saying like, just do what makes you happy. I mean, yes, find happy in everything you have to do is a good quest, right?
Well, there's a mindset shift in there.
Right? It is. I mean, really the key for me would be just don't drop you. Like, don't start having self-attacking behaviors, you know, like I did a lot of those. Obviously, you don't get 350 pounds, you know, by eating an apple. So I did a lot of those behaviors and other ones. So because I turned it against me, you know, don't do that. Maybe that would be
such an important. Thank you for sharing that. It's really important to have that somebody, especially, and I do mean this, somebody of your success and your caliber, and all of the triumphs, right? The things you've achieved in your life, to hear that, like, this is a huge part of my journey as well. And I would speculate perhaps part of, you know, a drive and a passion underneath everything that you're doing, and the service and the very meaningful service you're providing to people.
That's my favorite word. Thank you for that. Meaning is very, very powerful. I have to say, if I remember who did well in school when I was a kid, they're not the ones who amount. I mean, they're fine, maybe, you know, but the ones of us that really came out, some of us got, you know, one of my dearest friends, you know, committed suicide when we were very young. And partly for that, I would argue that they were really trying to be a giraffe, and poor soul, they were definitely a zebra. And at the time, there was no consciousness that, you know, if you were one, it would be difficult to be the other. And she couldn't make it. And that was a big kick in my pants too. I'm like, oh, okay, that's no fun. Like, that's, you know, I learned a lot from her passing. And so somehow build your tribe, you know, come out of school and have your friends, your dear, like your people, you know, with which your giraffes, just find your tribe.
Exactly.
My metaphor.
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings it back to the quiz, right? Because the first step is knowing who you are and knowing I think most of us feel like we could do better at getting our shit done, right? Which is the whole question where, but then it's like, why? Where are the challenges for you, and how are they indicative of your unique style and the way you operate in the world? So let's say, Sophie, I've taken the quiz and I now understand I'm an envisioner and I have a million ideas, but I need help with grounding them and and I'm just laughing because like, right. This is why when I fire off all those ideas, Todd and I've gotten really good. We worked together like 9 years now or 10 years. He'll be like, just give me time to think about it. Just let me think about that. Exactly. But half the time, by the time he's gone off to think about it, I'm on to all these new things. I'm like, oh yeah, right. I forgot all about that. Right. So we have our systems, but so we understand now, right? We take the quiz, we understand. So where do we go from there? How do we start? We can do a discovery call with you. We can start using a project management system on our own. Like, what are the steps that you kind of recommend for someone who really wants to do this work and start living the life they really want to live, which is, I couldn't imagine what could be more important.
I agree. And it's funny how people don't see that the life is just it's an addition of little moments. That's what it is. Like, people are like, life is like this thing that will happen one day. No, it's this moment, this next moment, this next moment. Yes. So if you're not participating in making those little moments better, then it's not going to amount to much. And at this point, it's on you. Like, yes, as a kid and teachers and parents and whatever, there's a book in France that's called, it's not because you've had a difficult childhood that you have to be a pain in the ass for everybody else. But I like. To answer your question, lots you can do on the website. There's lots of free stuff, lots of resources, lots of steps for particular archetypes, to kind of direct how to maybe announce to other people that that's how you work best, and things like that. Because I find that people end up a little bit in some knots, because they don't understand themselves. So they take other people's, opinions about them the wrong way. And so it injures relationship where if we were to say, okay, Bridget's super creative, she's going to flow like a river all day long, and your job, Todd, and not from a punishing place, but it's a little bit to make banks for that river. So some of that stuff actually gets delivered. Then it becomes like, oh, cool, let's partner together, as opposed to like whatever sound that would make, in someone. So the quiz is great. I also have group sessions that I do, where I take on like 10, 20, we can be, up to 20 probably is what I'm doing lately. And then we do the work together. So it's more affordable. And then you can hire me to work with you one-on-one, like you and I have been doing, which is obviously hands-on, having both of our heads together, trying to ninja our way through.
Yes. Exactly.
And the combination of, the mindset, which is obviously more the psychology, the emotional work, which is like what happened to me as a little girl. It's like that plays out. I mean, we're not doing therapy, but we definitely kind of like thread a few, why don't I feel like I don't deserve to be happy? Like every time I reach something that's really big and good, it's like I sabotage myself. Why do I do that? Well, that's a good conversation, even if it just triggers the question. Right. So working one-on-one goes obviously a little bit deeper, faster, possibly. Although the groups is great because you benefit. I mean, look at this conversation. We mix each other in all these ways, like a cohort does that. And that I think is very powerful. Those are the two main ways. I mean, people hire me to speak and do all sorts of things. But for right now, this particular piece of helping download what's in your head onto a system that actually makes sense to you. That's my juice. That's where I live. I'm happy to live.
Yeah. The other one I heard from you is maybe, because we're all about questions here, right? Ask yourself, do I need to do this? Did I need to say yes to this? If it's before, if you could do it in the moment, do I need to say yes to this? Or why
and if the answer is no, you can renegotiate. You can say, you know what, that IKEA building furniture weekend, although it sounds super fun, I'm writing a book. And so I'm going to be home and write my book. So let me know how it went. Send me pictures.
That's we often have a fear of disappointing people. Right. Like I maybe it's just me, but I like,
a lot of people
coach enough people were like, I don't want to do, I want to do it. I don't have the time to do it. And if I just say yes and then kind of don't show, right. It's like, no, right. In fact, what you'll find is when you share that with the person and are clear about what's going on, you can find like 2-3 months down the road some time to do that thing, but then you're not offending the person, you're not hurting a relationship, they're not left wondering, was it me, right? All the assumptions that come in when really you just had to communicate a little bit more and get past
That's
that.
so true. It is harder for anyone to say no if you don't have your yes. Right. So if you're not writing a book, or if you don't have the 5 kids, or if you don't have the whatever that really is like forces us a little bit, then it's a little bit harder, because it's like, well, why not? Yes, I want to be a good friend. But first of all, are you a good friend? Because the next thing you know is that guy's at IKEA with you and something happens and he gets like, why am I here? I don't want to be here. And, I do so much for you.
Right. There's the resentment.
There is the resentment.
Yes.
It's not, you didn't, it was in the Hendricks, my dear friends, Guy and Katie Hendricks, they call it the full body yes. Yes. And that is how they live their lives. And God, I mean, of course, now they've reached the level of success that they can literally say no to anything that they don't want to do. But just this idea that it's like, how is my body? Like, what does that feel like when something is like, yes? Yeah. And how much more of that can we do and less of the other? When it's like, I don't know.
Yes. Lately I've been really working on this, and you've been helping me a lot. And lately I've been trying to think of it in my own mind, like protecting my time the way I would protect my money. Like I don't just say to people, oh, go in my wallet and grab however much you need. Right. But yet with my time, people are constantly like, oh, Bridget, can you talk to me about life coaching? I want to look into it. Can you talk to me about this? Can we, and because you see my things to do. It's like schedule time with so-and-so, schedule time with, and you're like, who are all these people that you have schedules? I'm like, well, they're all just people that want my time, and it's like, and I would love, the thing is, I want to be a giving, kind, generous person. But you said to me at one point, great, so set aside an hour a week, and the first couple people that book with you, they get your free time. They get your mentoring time, your free time. And that was a huge light bulb for me, because I have weeks where I'm doing like hours of just people coming to me saying, oh, I want to pick your brain. I have someone else we know who's like, hell no, you don't pick my brain. You pay for my brain. You know how much education I've had and how much I'm like, ooh, I need to just move a little bit in that direction. But so what you're saying is very, very powerful for me. And I'm sure many who are listening.
And it doesn't make you unkind.
Right.
At all. I mean, honestly, if your friend is like upset at you because you have a life, maybe they're not a good friend.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not a good friend. It's like, if they don't want, like when one of my friend says no to something I want to do because of something that they support for their life, I'm cheering. Great. Well, then someone else is helping, because I'm not going to IKEA by myself. I don't know why I'm obsessed with IKEA right now.
No. Yeah. But it's true. And for all of us, I think what a lot of people don't realize, when you have your own business, like Todd and I are, always talking about how at least half the time is marketing and calls with people who are interested, and right. And what is the conversion rate? It's low. We know that. That's just, I mean, it's good, but right. Like we have to spend a lot of time and energy and extroverted energy in marketing for our business and connecting with people. And so when we give extra time to people who are not paying us, and it ends up being hours and hours and hours in our week, it really harms our ability to be successful in our businesses and provide for our families. Like there's a lot tied to it. I hope that doesn't sound crass, but I'm starting to weigh that and really think that even if people don't understand that, it's okay, because I know. And if I say to someone, look, I don't have the extra time this week, I know it's because if whatever extra hours are left, I need to be marketing. I need to be networking to keep my business going, and it's not just free time just because it's on the calendar, right?
Correct. Or doing nothing. It's also okay. Like we're in a culture where if I'm doing nothing, you're like, well, you're doing nothing. You can really help us. It's like, no, I'm not doing nothing. I'm resting. That's something.
Right. Yes.
Which has to happen if we're going to give our best selves to all the commitments that we make every day.
Yes. How many people do we know that are burned out? They just burned out, and then they feel like they've given so much to everyone. No, they just didn't have good boundaries. Like, I don't see that as like, but there's nothing glorious about that for me.
No. Sophie, there's that balance too, and coaching, and I'm sure this comes up in your work, right? Of we could give all of that, say, in one capacity at work, and then have nothing left of ourselves to give at home, right? And so to even raise and how the professional and the personal come together in these topics is and then how that contributes to our happiness, to our joy, or vice versa, to our sorrow, right? And to the pain we experience each day is a huge thing to unlock with somebody, right? It's a gift for people to trust us enough to have those discussions, and then to see them unlock in the process of like, oh my gosh, like I don't have to be tethered to this thought that's been keeping me, or this mindset that's been keeping me beholding to saying yes all this time. And now
really beautiful.
Look at me.
It's funny, one of my favorite, I know we're wrapping up, but one of my favorite texts came, maybe, I don't know, I'd been working with this guy for a few months, maybe 2 months. I got an email from his girlfriend who was basically like, she didn't know me from Eve. She just got my information, but she was like, it was very moving. It wasn't a flip. She was just like, you gave me my guy back. Like, he would walk out of the office so full in his head and so disturbed and preoccupied, and he would be half there, like if even, and now he closes his day, he's done with his work, and we can be together. And I am just so grateful. And I just sat there and sobbed, and it was just like, it's fun to help people be productive, whatever, but to be able to come home and be with yourself, and your partner and your kid, whatever that is. That is the priceless thing that comes with this work.
It's life-changing. And
it is.
I gotta say, when gives me chills, because that's Bridget, I imagine it's true for you too. Like, that feeling is something we can relate to, right? That relief, Sophie, Bridget, like, that's a relief that we've felt in ourselves, and we desperately, passionately want for everybody else. And so that's why we do this show. That's why we do this work. It's just, oh gosh. Well, so warm and fuzzy on this show.
Yes. And I just want to say, I know we are wrapping up too, but as a very concrete way that you help me with that, Sophie, is that we have on every week, connect with my daughters, connect with my parents.
Yes.
Certain type of, things I want to, ways I want to connect with Neil in these ways. Right. And so of course I have the it feels like the never ending work to, items, which are really getting pared down in just a short time. Amazingly, the work items, it's like, wow. But the personal, like, every time I see that, I'm like, wow, I would let a lot of time pass without connecting with important people in my life and constantly be feeling guilty. And, just having it there in front of me on the tool that we're using, the Trello tool, this stuff is deep. It is not about just, what we think, like time management. That term doesn't even scratch the surface of this kind of work. So thank you. I just want to say thank you for what you've done for my life. And I'm so happy and honored that we're going to be able to share this with our audience, and that I think people are going to get a lot out of it.
Thank you for having me here. This was like one of my absolute favorite conversations. In general, like, I love this conversation. Thank you both for inviting me and sharing so much of yourselves.
Sophie, I think I'm going to learn a lot. I learned, a ton. There's specific people that I coach and in my life that I'm going to, direct specifically to parts of what you talked about here. I mean, everybody always listens, but there's really important messages here that you shared, and I appreciate you so much for them. The word that pops for me as we close this whole thing down, right, is intentional. Like, that you are teaching people, you're equipping them with a skill set and a mindset to live a far more intentional life, a more intentional existence, which, calms everything down.
Yes.
Which allows we were off camera when we started, chatting for a few minutes before this, but it allows for that being, right? We do spend so much time in the doing, and this work is to manage the doing to allow for the being, which is, I think what you said at the start, what it's all about, right? To just to get there, to have that.
I'm so glad you caught that from our conversation, because it is like, it's not time management, it's peace management. It's you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, if you want some peace management, I hope you check out, all you listeners out there, check out, Sophie's website. What is it again? Can you just tell us again what the website is?
Yes, it's called becurrenttoday.com. Becurrenttoday.com.
becurrenttoday.com.
Becurrent today.
Go run there, and it will change your life. You will get time back that you never would have imagined you had.
Well, thank you, Bridget. So much. Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you both.
As we say, be good people, make good choices. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.